What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we highlight the latest and greatest cybersecurity news, as well as those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
And usually Levon, but he is gone this week. Enjoying time with the family and what have you. So it's just the two of us. So it's definitely going to be different. I'm sure we'll keep you entertained. This week, same formula. So the first two episodes, Monday and Tuesday, will be our topics. Wednesday discussion, we changed the game up a little bit. We had a guest star, so we had Aisha Hollins, V Sizzle, extraordinaire. So she was on. We had a really good discussion about just the state of cybersecurity training and what have you. So please tune in for that one. It's a little bit longer than we normally record because it was going so well. So it's about 45 minutes. So definitely download that one, watch the video, or listen to the audio. And then Friday, like usual, we're going to talk about everything but cybersecurity. And it's a pretty eventful week. Like we've seen or heard or played a lot of different things. So it should be a good episode. But without further ado, I'll give it to myself since I'm leading one of these topics. So this week, in a Bloomberg.com article about Timnit Gebru, the former AI, I would call her probably subject matter expert. She's an AI scientist. She had that falling out with Google that we reported on pretty much at the beginning of our podcasting. I want to say that was like early.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was early. Like we started in November. I think we actually reported about her in November, and just her struggle with Google and how they were trying to get her to pull some research that she had published that was not disparaging towards Google. However, I guess it didn't paint AI in such a great light, and then there was some fallout from that. She gave them an ultimatum. And they said, well, we'll accept your resignation. She was like, but I didn't resign. So she still stands strong saying that she was fired. Google still stands strong, says she resigned. Either way, she's gone on to form a new group, independent group, where she can continue to do her research in AI and then try to make it a more ethical, diverse field. Because there are issues with AI that she was trying to address when it comes to minorities and just unethical practices when it comes to the collecting of information and the use of AI to give bank loans and to
Facial recognition was one.
Yeah, facial recognition was a problem as well. Yeah, so there's a lot there she was trying to clean up, but alas, now she's doing it independently. This article on Bloomberg is annoying me because now I can't open it up without the ad blocking me. It wants me to accept something, and we don't do that on this podcast. We don't accept anything, right? We don't take cookies from strangers.
Yeah. So like I actually have it up, Ryan. So like the title of it is Google's former AI ethics chief has a plan to rethink big tech. And the stuff that you were talking about, I mean, it's dead on with what she's kind of going into in the article. You know what I mean? By Dina Bass. You mentioned it's Bloomberg.com. It's by Dina Bass or Bass. BASS, however we want to say it. I'm sorry if I don't have your name right.
No, I appreciate it. And then she also goes into, I didn't know her story, how she's a refugee and how that also impacts the way she sees freedom of speech and what have you, and how she feels that these companies are basically bullying their trusted members into not saying things that hurts their bottom line, which I mean, that makes sense, right? That most companies, your Googles, your Amazons, and what have you, will, they protect their shareholders before they protect their employees. And she's asking for fair practices, not imagining, but a reconceptualizing of AI, so that it is more diverse, so that it is more ethical in its practices with people and things of that nature. So she's not asking for anything controversial, in my opinion, but it is a big ask of companies who are already selling their AI to the Department of Defense and other agencies. So they don't want to look bad, basically. How do you feel about this article?
So reading it something that kind of struck out at me that I had to look into a little bit, that is already present, but is maybe not, I think, enforced to her liking, is she mentions the baseline needs to be labor protection and whistleblower protection and anti-discrimination laws. Because again, she thinks she falls into this category where she was unjustly fired for what she was talking about, right? She did not, like you said, she did not single out Google, but she was talking about something that Google was starting to get a big footprint in that
Right.
may not look good. You know what I mean? She was saying, hey, this is for all AI. This is not, I'm not saying Google did this, my employer did not do this. I'm saying everyone needs to watch out for this. But I mean, so the thing is, there is labor protection and whistleblower protection already out there for people. But again, she just wants to, like you said, reconceptualize how it is implemented, because again, she thinks it's just not fair. And the reason she thinks it's not fair is also what you mentioned, because the companies are working towards their best interests, right? So they're going to do everything they can to make that dollar and not necessarily look out for the people that bring these things up, right? Um, and she brings up an example where she's talking about, because the person that's interviewing her asked her, what might that look like when it comes to those protections, and she's like, well, let's look at cars, right? You have an issue with your car, if it's going to spontaneously combust, or it's going to drive you into a ditch,
Right.
there are standards that need to be upheld to make sure that doesn't happen. And she just doesn't think that's going on in the AI community, and that's what she wants. And she wants the government to step in for more regulation, which I don't want to get into a political thing or anything like that. And I know I'm the Patriot Act guy, right? I'm like, government,
Right.
step in, find those Terrys and take them out, right? I know that's what I say, but there is a fine line here where I'm for government oversight when it's correct, right? Like, I don't want the government to oversee everything, you know what I mean? But there is a point where it can get to be too much. But she wants different things, like she says specifically high stakes scenarios, right? When it comes to AI, right?
Right.
She says the government is actually using unregulated products now, right? Google Translate apparently does not work that well. It's worked that well for me, when I use Google Translate, it seems
Right.
to work for me. But for she said when they vet refugees, they use that, and it may not be all that accurate. And again, it's his close to home for her, right? Because she's a Eritrean, I think is what it says.
Right. I couldn't pronounce it. Yeah.
Eritrean, fled Ethiopia in her teens. Yep. So to her, that's something that hits close to home. And she's like, people that were in my situation need to be able, the government needs to be able to rely on these things to communicate correctly, with these people.
Right.
But no, I understand what she's trying to do, but to me it seems like those protections are already there. It's just that they probably need to be more better enforced. It's just like with, and again, not to get into politics, right? Like, when it comes to immigration, there are rules there to do certain things. It's just how they're enforced depending on who's in office or who's doing what. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's one of those things where it's a lightning rod issue in this country, but it's not like people are out there just allowing illegal immigration. There is a process, you know what I mean? Now, how it's implemented, whether or not you have the people to make that happen, or whether or not they're taking it serious, that's the different discussion. But there are rules on the books, you know what I mean, for those different types of things. So that's kind of what she's talking about. But again, I think some of the protections are there. I think just the implementation leaves a little bit to be desired. Is
Right.
what she has an issue with.
Right. And I would agree as well. When it comes to regulation, um, again, because if it is high stakes, like, the problem being, like, I'm not in a big corporation, so I don't have that experience. However, I can always see how it's the best interest, right? So if the AI is not working appropriately, or if it is has some underlying biases and discrimination due to the way that it's developed, or put in production, uh, we'll get to that after we make this money. You know what I mean? Like, so I can see. I can see how that could be a concern. Like, you would want that to be from the jump, right? You want all of these different platform holders to all either come to the table and be regulated by the government, so it would be even handed to a certain extent, or build your own consortium, your AI United Nations or whatever you want to call it, to figure this out. But if Amazon has their own, Google has their own, IBM has their own, then that could spell disaster in the future, um, depending on which one is being implemented, which one's being used. Go ahead.
I think your AI United Nations would be the better way to go, right? Because we've seen it, man. I don't want to say this for a third time because I'm trying to say I don't want to get into politics, but we've seen it where depending on what party is in power, how it can be misconstrued to or abused to appease one side or the other, right? So like if you leave it up to the government to regulate these things, there's more than likely going to be somebody that's appointed to the head of this, right? And it may not be a Senate appointment. It may just be
Right.
at the discretion of whoever is in power at that time, right? And they may do the bidding of whoever is in power at that time. But if you do it like you said with the United Nations type thing, if you get 150 different countries to agree on this, like, hey, this is the route we're going to go, it leaves that more of a fair way to go about doing that, right? Because then it's not necessarily the interests of just Americans at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, the AI United Nations thing. I know some people don't believe in the United Nations, but I mean, I
Right,
believe their
right.
purpose is legit. But yeah, again,
But yeah,
leaves something
I
to
was
be.
gonna say, even if it's only the companies themselves to come together and regulate themselves, kind of like in the ESRB for the video games. Remember when that was a thing? You had lawyers trying to sue. You had I think it was Hillary Clinton. She was big on like Mortal Kombat and Night Trap and all that stuff was bad. So eventually they just regulated themselves. They're like, you know what, we will form a consortium, we will build a rating system, and we will police ourselves. And it's worked to a certain extent. Sometimes, there are issues there as well when it comes to politics, but something like that could even work. Or something that's totally independent. So maybe you have a company that's not part of the because I don't think the ESRB is not part of the actual industry. Like it's its own entity that the industry put together. So something like that maybe.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't understand AI enough. Like AI makes me feel dumb. Anytime I read or I get into it, it makes me feel really I don't know. Because how do you decide? Like it always comes back to me, like how do you secure it? How do you make it safe? Um, but you have to understand the basics of how AI works, right? And that's not me. I just
Well,
ask Siri questions. That's all.
yeah. Well, like, you don't have a degree from Stanford like Dr. Gebru, right? Isn't that where she
Right.
got
Right.
her?
And I am not a doctor,
Yeah.
nor, nor will I be. Um, so yeah, so that you need those bright people in the room, but then you have one like Dr. Gabriel who's leading her field and is like, this is not right, and they come down hard on her, like no, nothing to see here, folks, nothing to see here. So there is something definitely to be said about how quickly they showed her the door. Once she just said there may be issues here, or this is where we do have issues. So definitely interesting article. It's fairly short. Is basically it seems as though they maybe ran into her, or they only had so much time to formulate their article to see where she was moving to, what she is doing in the future. So like it's like a 2-minute read if people get a chance to read it. But I thought it was pretty insightful. I'm sure we will continue to see Dr. Gebru in the future and all the things that she's doing. They also mentioned there's other AI groups that are out there like Latinx AI. There's I think it was Black women in AI. There was Indigenous people in AI. So there's if that's your thing, again, like it's not mine, not because I don't think it's cool. It's just it's high concept. It goes right over my head. But if that's your thing, like there's a group for you out there. And again, we're always ushering in things on this platform that are for people of color to grow. So I'm sure AI is in the same boat, right? Like it's probably very very minority. Or so I should say, there's probably little minorities within AI. Um, so you should look into it. Like if one of those demographics fits you and this is your thing, then you should definitely jump on it and continue to grow the base.
Yeah, for sure. You hit almost all of them actually. Queer in AI was the one you missed.
Oh,
Queer in
okay.
AI, Black in AI, Latinx in AI, Indigenous AI.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely jump on one of those if that's your thing, or maybe you can create your own thing if that's the case. But I think that pretty much wraps this topic. So again, tune in throughout the week. Uh, we know Levon's not here, so if you're a Levon fan, you're the fan of the main man. Continue to listen to us. He'll be back next week. Definitely have the website, www.theothersideofthefirewall.com, where you get to our social medias. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. Levon is Levon Maynard on Twitter. I'm sorry, RyRy Security Guy at Clubhouse, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter. And then Levon is on Twitter at Levon Maynard. So his name. Um, so hit up all those things, like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow, or you can hear us tomorrow, whichever way you like to listen to the podcast. We greatly appreciate you. I think this is episode 109. So we're in the hundreds now. So stay tuned. With that being said, stay safe, stay secure.